Well, I think luxury today is going through an inflection point. The new ingredient in the mix that is going to change everything is generative AI. Your experience and your perception is going to change. They are going to start showing you the products, and the experience is going to be more human. I think that brands now it's another one of these inflection points. They are in this point of becoming technology companies.
Take your front row seat. Today, we're diving into how digital technologies are redefining the luxury experience. I'm Dr. Karen, and after over a decade at the intersection of fashion and technology, I've seen just how fast luxury is evolving. And today, I'm joined by someone who's not just keeping up, but rewiring the entire system. Pedro, it's a pleasure to have you here. Let's get into it.
Thank you, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Pedro, you've helped some of the world's most respected luxury brands navigate emerging technologies. When you think about luxury today, what do you believe still needs to be rewired most urgently?
Well, I think luxury today is going through an inflection point. There are some challenges currently for the industry, and I think they are big, some of them systemic challenges, right? And all of them has come at the same point in time, which is makes it even more challenging. So, for example, one of the points is that there is a generational shift. And the new generations, millennials, namely Gen Z and especially Gen Alpha, they are consuming in a completely different way. There is another point, which is the digital technologies, especially online commerce. The experience is very flat, and there is no differentiation across brands, across segments, across categories, meaning whatever luxury brand of your choice, you choose the e-commerce. And fundamentally, they are not very different from any premium brand or even from Amazon. The experience is mostly the same. So the digital channels are something that brands are trying to use to extend the physical boutique experience. So the in-store experience, it's the key center, it's the key pillar of the brand experience for the client. So that's another challenge. It's the key experience, and it's very nice, and most of the brands, if not all, they do it very well. They are excellent on that. But there are also some limitations, right? First of all, the sales teams in the stores are not as specialized as before, and there is much more rotation on the staff. So they master less the brand identity, and the product. There's also inherent limitations, like in a space and time. There is a capacity limitation for handling a volume of customers. Brands cannot have all the product assortment in the boutiques, and sometimes that presents also limitations. So digital channels are a good way to expand and extend that experience, but with the current elements, it's also very limited. So essentially, those are the points that today luxury, some of the points at least, that luxury industry needs to overcome, and everything has come at the same point in time, as I said.
Yeah. You mentioned that the experiences are very flat. When you think about luxury, luxury is usually not flat. Luxury boutiques are built, or also luxury e-commerce stores are built on scarcity, intimacy, and craftsmanship. How do you think brands can extend that emotional resonance beyond just the physical store, but also into the e-commerce stores?
So, yes, the digital experience is mostly flat. And brands are trying to use emerging technologies to extend that experience from blockchain with digital product passports or with loyalty activations in order to identify the customers and to offer some digital asset unique that is owned by the customer and that makes them feel special and that they can use to establish a conversation, a one-to-one conversation with the client and maybe use it as a key to enable experiences. On the 3D technologies, virtual try-on I think is the most relevant and something that I see most of the brands going to for the past years.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And this is very important because also the return rate especially on online commerce is very high and it's a big problem, right? You have products on the air for 30-40 days as an average that cost between 40 and 60% of the price tag. And it's a financial burden for brands, but also when the product doesn't fit or it is not up to the expectations because the digital experience is not realistic, it also has an impact on the client perception, how the client perceives the brand, and so that can alienate the client.
Yeah, kind of a negative experience in that sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the point is that if you see then more spatial computing, more towards spatial computing, AR and VR devices, they are becoming very good, but they are still not there. I think Apple Vision Pro has set up a kind of baseline, and I think they are going to improve it. And we could say that the experience this device provides is good enough, but still, what I see to sum up is that all these technologies are promising different elements, but due to their current state of maturity, they are almost there but not there. So something is missing, and I think these technologies need to develop a bit more in order to really deliver what the brands are expecting and what the clients want.
I see. So they're not there yet, but you would say they're on the way to actually go or to be there.
Yes.
What would you say, like, what's your, expectations, or how long will it take to actually have like a very good digital experience? I mean, obviously you're an expert. You've worked for many big brands at the Richemont Group, and you led the Web3 and the innovation strategy there. So you have a lot of experience. So I want to understand, what's your prediction there?
So, well, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know. But I think the ingredient that in the mix, the new ingredient in the mix that is going to change everything is generative AI.
Yeah.
Because I think with generative AI, now we are seeing different elements. Of course, we have this wonderful chat box that we can interact with, but the applications in imaging and video and the automation, the power of AI agents, that's going to change that's going to change to have an impact on these technologies, and especially is going to bring these technologies together. It's going to make them more human.
Okay, can you maybe just elaborate a bit more on the AI agents and in what way or what sense they're going to change it, so I understand it better?
Absolutely. So I was speaking at the beginning that currently the online experience is mostly flat, at least in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I think this experience needs to change. The metaverse promised a lot of things on that side, but
maybe too much, overpromised, or
maybe too much. I think it was also a moment of hype, right? Especially driven by the interaction with the blockchain, where some companies started to sell lands, and then everyone realized that the quality of the graphics was not good or not good enough.
Yeah.
Right, and that there were not enough people there. So here we are speaking about audiences.
Yeah.
right? I think if you look at the current platforms, Roblox, Fortnite, more in the Web3 angle, the sandbox, those platforms are actively are being actively used. They have
Yes.
users,
Yeah.
a significant amount of daily users, and people is using them. But that's the audience of that platform. That's more towards gaming,
Yes.
right? That's the
yes.
gaming audience.
And probably younger audience as well,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
So the problem is that where this audience, this segment of people intersects with the brand's audience.
Yeah.
And I think for the moment there's not much overlapping. That's where the friction comes and where the brands say, okay, do I see ourselves here? Do I see our audience in these places? And that's where the friction comes, because the quality of the product in the virtual products, or the virtual representation of the products, is not good enough, and so on and so forth. And for the audience of the brand, these worlds don't have a purpose, because maybe they are not so much into gaming or into what these platforms offer. So what I think is going to happen is that first of all, the quality of the graphics is improving dramatically. And AI is going to help a bit on that.
Okay.
Not much needed on that area. If you look, for example, Cartier, you go to the Cartier websites and you go to the watches. I think most, if not all of them, are virtual representation of the products.
Oh, really?
And the
Okay.
quality is amazing. What Cartier team has done, and kudos to them, because the quality of that is amazing. You
It
go
is.
there. Personally, that's my personal opinion as an individual. I don't see any flaw there. I think it's wonderful. You can really see the product there.
I agree. I didn't know that, so I definitely agree. Yeah.
Many people don't know that. So if you go there and you don't know it, you think you are looking at a physical product,
Exactly.
at a picture or something, right? And if you look really well, you will realize that are 3D representation.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason, the quality of the 3D representation of the products, I don't think we are that far.
Okay.
But then in the experience overall, I think we are far. We are far because the performance is not good, or the quality of the graphics is not good. When you see at all these companies enabling metaverse or spatial web or immersive experience, most of them, the videos that you see are done on purpose, but then the real delivery of their technology in terms of quality, the imaging and the performance is lower.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one point.
And not convincing also.
Yes.
Like me as a customer, sometimes I don't find it really convincing or appealing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Please go on. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's one point. And then, okay, I arrive as a user to one of these experience. What do I do there?
Yes.
Right. What I think is going to happen is that AI agents are going to start being implemented into this experience in order to interact with the users.
I see.
Right. So if you go to a pop-up enabled by whatever brand, this immersive pop-up, and you go there and you start speaking with someone that is focused on you, your experience and your perception is going to change. They are going to start showing you the products, and the experience is going to be more human. I think what AI is going to bring to all these technologies and is going to be the glue to all these technologies in a human way, in a way that is perceived more human, more natural to us, and more personalized. And so imagine for a number of clients, you would need a number of people, behind the screen doing that. With an AI agent, it's really easy and it's scalable, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be one of the points, and then the personalization, right? And I think this now brings the brands into the mix, because it's going to be about the product and the experience personalization. It's going to imply that they know the client, they know Karin, for example, and they know what you want, as opposed to what I like, for example, as a different client of the same brand.
Yes.
So with AI, it's fairly easy and scalable to implement this hyper personalization and this differentiation. I think that's how AI is going to change the game.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you mentioned two very, very important points. Basically, hyper-personalization, which is especially important in this region that we're sitting here now in Dubai or the Middle East.
Yeah.
It is something that actually the customer here wants, hyper-personalization. And then, and also like efficiency. I mean, that's something that I heard. I mean, you didn't mention it, but it's like, it's about efficiency. So you need less like working power, probably less hours as well to study me as Karen, because you now have AI agents. So, and the very important point that I felt is what a lot of people are scared of is the human touch will be lost through AI agents. I mean, that's something that I quite often hear. Oh, there is no human touch anymore. Everything is automated. Everything is computer. Everything is or computerized, digital. And I sometimes feel that luxury brands or brands in general, they're scared of touching emerging technologies or just digitalize some parts because the human touch gets lost, which is so important in luxury. And you're just like saying, actually not. It's on the contrary, there will be more human touch. And I find that very, very interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think it's a matter of nuances. When we say we are going to lose the human touch, I think we are generalizing. But this again, how the brands are going to implement this. So a few weeks ago, I was giving a lecture and running a workshop for a private school in Switzerland. I won't mention names, but you know, for teenagers. One of these boarding schools, and we were discussing, and it's one of the things that strikes me as unique is this combination this generation has between blending technology with real world, with physical experience. Let's not say real, but physical experience. They like as much as being with the technology and being connected, as well as, you know, going to the countryside, spending the afternoon with friends, and so on. And this came up in the conversations, right?
Yeah.
So I think for us, you know, older generations, we have this perspective, but for them it's so natural and organic.
I agree.
And
yes. Yeah.
That is completely different. And all of them were not happy, without exception, were not happy about where the social networks are going,
really?
right?
Okay.
Too much addictive content, meaningless, and so on. I was reading a report the other day following this. These audiences that Facebook is having in the use at the moment because of this lawsuit.
Yes.
And the amount of content in the social networks in general, but in Facebook in particular, that each user is consuming from their network is reducing.
Oh, really? Okay.
They are consuming more targeted content from commercial, from content creators and so on, and less friends content. And these social networks are for connecting with friends.
Yes.
They started as such.
Exactly.
Right?
They started as such.
So,
yes. Yeah.
So I think that's important. So going back to your question is if I would have to tell a brand how to use this technology without losing the human touch, I think brands know how to do the physical experience very well.
Yes,
Whether if it's at the boutique or an activation, an event, they do it very well.
Yes.
So the key is how you blend that with technologies, how you extend what these technologies enable is to extend this experience beyond the space and time, beyond that specific moment and that specific place. And I don't think clients are going to expect speaking with a human person when they are in a virtual environment, you know, enjoying a piece. So I just put this use case as an example.
Yeah.
I go to you know, whatever boutique, watch jewelry fashion brand, and I want to see some products, right? And I'm not convinced. Sometimes we go on in the first visit, we know what we want and we take it home.
We
But
know exactly what we want, but not always.
Usually I would say it's the opposite. You go, you see, and you think,
Yes.
right? So, and I think that's a key point in which technology can really make the difference, because I can be seated down with the salesperson, the sales associate, and they have shown me some products. Imagine how easy for me as a client would be, after that visit, receive a WhatsApp from the sales associate. Thank you for visiting. Here's a link where you can see the products that you were interested in.
Yes.
And I click on that link and I enter into a virtual space that show me those products, right? First of all, I need flexibility as a client. So I should be able to use that link in my smartphone, in my laptop,
Yes.
Maybe in a VR headset or in AR headset, or connected to my TV. Wherever I am, I should be able to browse it.
Yes, yeah.
And the experience should be adapted to the device, right? I think we are still a bit far away from this, but just to illustrate the concept. That would be the future,
yes, yeah.
Right?
I agree.
I don't think it's really long term. I think it's probably medium term. But, and I can browse there exactly those products that have been interested into. And I have an AI assistant that I can interact with.
Yes.
It's an avatar, it's a person, or maybe it's a voice, and I don't see anything. It's just speaking with someone, and I can make questions and say, for example, if it's a jacket, and I have 3 different jackets, okay, and how do you think this jacket would combine with my wardrobe, with the things that I already have? Could you present me some outfits and so on? So
like even giving like styling tips, right? And,
exactly. And then I can go back to the sales associate and say, okay, I want this one.
Yes.
Or I can, acquire it from the virtual environment. Say, okay, I want this model because I already tried, and please send it to my home and check out. It's seamless. And very important here, because we need to take a lot of things into account.
Yeah.
We speak about omnichannel. Omnichannel is not only the experience for the customer. You need to take into account also the team working there, the stocks, logistics, and the sales associate. So the sales associate that worked for me and that took care of me is going to receive their commission. I think that's more or less nailed down technologically already for many brands. But still, it's a 360 representation of what, in my opinion, would be a seamless experience that is blending in-store experience with online experience.
Yes.
Anytime, anywhere.
Yeah. And I think, that's also how I envision it, and probably the salesperson as well, because the moment I, as a customer, walk away or walk out, I could just go online and order it, and the salesperson doesn't or is not connected to the buy that I actually made online, right? So that would be very nice to have basically like also a seamless experience in a way as a customer, but also for a salesperson to say, okay, that's my client, and I consulted this client, and that's why Karen went and bought it online, right, and not in stores. Another point that you mentioned is the avatar. That's something I see quite often, that brands have like an avatar, not only in the luxury industry or fashion industry, but they try to have like this human experience, right, through an avatar. My question would be, is it really necessary to have an avatar? Because you mentioned maybe it's just a voice. Isn't it just enough to have a voice, or does it really have to be an avatar that doesn't even like resonate with me? I mean,
that's a very good question, and I think it depends on the context and the person, right? Personally, I'm also not much a friend of avatars.
Yeah.
Right? I prefer the first person view. So not viewing myself, because while I'm here with you, I see you, but I don't see myself.
Yes.
Right. So that feels a bit more natural for me. But also, as a long-time gamer, I was playing games. I'm playing games since I was 8 years old, or
Okay.
7 or 6. I don't remember. I think the avatar has an interesting component that let us a bit play with it and play with ourselves, right? So it doesn't need to be this crazy element that has nothing to do with us. I think creativity is very important here, and companies need to apply this in order to appeal clients, first of all, because it has a gaming component, and maybe I can find something fun. In general, I don't feel a lot of fun about most of the avatars. I think
usually not.
The experience is quite flat.
Yes.
I prefer the avatars that you create in actual games. Like, I'm a huge fan of Diablo Saga. And the avatars that you can create for your characters there has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the character, and they're really interesting. And so
but this is, as you say, that's playful. That's a game. It's in a gaming experience. But I was just thinking, we're interacting with AI, probably the majority of us on a daily basis, and it's not an avatar, right? Let's, for example, say ChatGPT. We interact with ChatGPT usually just typing in and getting like a text response. Sometimes like a voice response. So I was wondering, for brands, for luxury brands, aren't people just like already used to get a text response or a voice response? Or what would you see, like, to basically elevate it to the luxury level?
I think that's a blend of things. So two things. Brands needs to find these elements of playfulness with the avatars and those situations, right? Sometimes I think it's more human to see a face. So, and I think in this sense, Asia is really forward thinking. They are way ahead of the rest with all these virtual influencers and so on. So maybe that's the angle for the avatar representation of an brand AI agent, right? But then there is another angle of the avatars. We have the playful avatars, right? Let's say like the fictional avatars. But then we have the digital twins, right?
Yes.
And I think in this sense, AI is very important, right? Because it can also fix one of the problems I was speaking before, which is the product returns, right? Product returns, especially in fashion, happens, but also in other elements happens before the perception of the product is not very realistic. I cannot perceive the material, the fabric, or the materials of the jewel or the watch or whatever, right? So there is a gap between how they are represented and the actual physical product. And second is myself, right?
Yes,
so maybe I see the product, maybe the product is represented right, but then there is no fit.
Yes,
it's not fitting either because it's not the actual piece for oneself, or maybe it fits but it doesn't go with my wardrobe.
Yes,
right. So really accurate avatars, I think they are going to play a role, right? Imagine this, how interesting would be if I go to whatever fashion brand website and I'm able, in a very simple way, to scan myself, maybe a couple of pictures in front of a mirror, and with AI, they are able to create a very accurate digital twin of my body.
Yeah, with
size, with all the size and all the exactly. So then there is an accurate fitting between the product and myself.
Yes,
right. So the AI is able to really fit the right size and really see how it looks and provide me that representation.
If it's too long, too loose, too short,
Exactly.
too tight,
That would be already an incredible thing. I
It
think
would be,
we're
definitely.
still a bit far away
Yes.
from that, but I think that's another one of the usages that I see for avatars, a very pragmatic one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a game changer when this arrives, and I think this will arrive.
Yeah.
Is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I agree.
Because fashion brands today they have an online product return rate of 40%.
Yeah, that's massive.
That's
massive,
incredible.
Yeah.
That's a huge financial burden and brand impact perception on clients. So imagine that you can reduce that to 5% to the same rates that they have in physical stores.
Yeah, from a financial perspective, this makes a huge difference. Yeah, definitely.
So digital twin driven avatars, I think that's is going to be a big thing.
Yeah, sometimes I also feel like the boutique or the hybrid boutique, so to say, what we were talking about, like taking from the physical store to the digital to the e-commerce store, sometimes feels a bit techy sometimes, or there is like kind of a risk to have it too techy. Like, let's say you have a lot of avatars or it's very techy, then we might lose some customers there. Maybe like the older generation, they don't feel comfortable with it. So how can we like bridge it like from like to be less techy and seamless, so that actually we don't really feel that there is a lot of technology behind it? What do you think? I mean, as an expert.
Well, it needs to be really easy.
Yes.
I think the challenge for technologists is not to build the technology. Is to build a technology that is easy to use.
Yeah,
and
simplicity.
Simplicity.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm going to use a cliche, but Apple.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Apple is so easy. It's limited. I don't think it's perfect, but it's so easy to use.
Yes.
That is it makes the technology transparent, and I think that should be the approach. That with a couple of clicks, a couple of movements, or just a voice, I think AI is going to bring a lot of. It's going to smooth out the customer experience, and it's going to make it more human. But I think that. I think we are at the moment, we are close to an inflection point in the sense that till now we had to adapt ourselves to the technology, to the digital technologies. Even the smartphones are not natural.
No, they were not. I think now they are. Even kids, like babies, know to swipe, right?
Yes, but still, we didn't.
Yes.
We have not been born with a screen in our hands, but we are used to speak. So now, and we are used to see and to hear.
Yes.
Right. So I think that's the way technology need to go to. Be able to
use our senses, human senses.
Exactly, and be in a way deviceless.
Yeah.
So decoupled from the device. What I see is that we are going to the devices, the infrastructure is going to go through a transformation where we are going to have a set of devices for personal use, like we have today, smartphone, laptop, tablet,
iPad, anything.
But we are going to go also to that they are going to transform into more contextual, right? So maybe a device to have at home, a smart device to have at home, which is seamless. I'm on that sense. I'm very bullish on holograms.
Okay,
right?
okay.
How could
Tell me
would
more
it be
about
to have
it?
a disc here in the table and be able to browse whatever catalog of a brand, for example, but in 3D.
Yes,
that is represented here. And if
Yeah.
you are with friends, maybe you can
Just show
swipe and discuss and so on. So I think personal devices are going to evolve to more personalized, to more contextual, and then shared devices are going to be a big thing.
Okay.
These screens that we see in boutiques are going to become more usable, and so these type of devices that we can use in a boutique or in a restaurant or in a hotel. I think technology needs to evolve also in order to increase security. So we can use these devices with our identity in a seamless way, but in a secure way as well, because those will be shared devices.
Exactly,
right?
and
So
data, right? The amount of data that these devices then collect about me, that's a huge thing,
but
right? That's
also that they can identify me,
Yes.
so they can provide my information, but at the same time, the device is not leaking that information.
Exactly. Or
right?
not selling.
Or the next user, I'm sure that the next user is not accessing to my account or
Exactly.
to my data.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
but I think these devices, the devices are going to evolve into more contextual and more personalized and shared use, of shared use as well.
Yeah, I like this idea. But then I was also thinking, like, are luxury clients actually ready for the digital transformation? Or what do you think? Like, we were talking about, like, the luxury brand side and what they're doing and how they're moving and what they're integrating. But then ultimately, it's all about the customer, right? What does the customer want? And is the luxury customer ready for that or not, for the digital transformation?
I think that's one of the challenges. We are at an inflection point where older generations, are becoming less relevant for the base clients of the luxury industry, and the new generations are becoming more relevant, are growing in volume and becoming a more significant part of the luxury customers. And
so millennials and Gen Zs right now, right?
Exactly.
This is
and especially Gen Zs, they are technology native.
Yes.
Right. Millennials, so
a bit mixed, yeah.
Gen X less.
Yeah.
That depends. So I think we accept what we have grown up with as humans. So these younger generations, they have grown with technology, and for them is more organic, more natural. What I was explaining you about my impressions with these students, I was a few weeks ago, right? And I think they rationalize better the usage of technology and blending it with offline, in-person experiences.
Yeah. Do you think they expected Gen Zs and maybe even millennials to have like a digital experience?
Yes, totally. Because this digital experience implies convenience, efficiency, and adapting to oneself, right? I might visit a boutique and I'm not ready to do the purchase at that moment.
Yes.
But maybe in that evening or the next day or the weekend, I'm ready to.
Exactly.
But
which happens quite often, yeah.
Maybe the boutique is closed. Maybe I'm not there. I'm in the middle of a mountain.
Yeah.
Or the desert.
Yes.
Right? So I think that's what they are expecting, because they do that already with other brands, with their friends, and with other things.
Just like if we go into the future, or have a look into the future, what would be the boutique experience, just in a few words, of 2030? Because we have the initiatives here in the regions of 2030. What would you expect?
I would expect to be a blend of digital tools and with the traditional in-store physical experience, right? So when we are speaking about digital, it's not only for when we are at home and in the middle of a taxi ride or whatever. It's also in the boutique.
In stores.
But it needs to be adapted and meaningful.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think this is important, like the meaningful implementation of digital tools or emerging technologies. Otherwise, people would just not use it, right?
Exactly. So a very clear use case, right? You go to a boutique of a jewelry brand because you are looking for a ring.
Yeah.
Whatever ring, right? And you probably don't know exactly, but you like the brand. You go there, and most probably they are not going to have all the models that they manufacture.
Yes, yeah.
And even if they have one piece of each model, they won't have all the sizes. So chances are that some of the products you are interested in, they don't fit.
Yeah.
Right? Either they are not available or they don't fit. And that diminishes a bit the experience, because then you need to wait.
I'm frustrated. That's
yeah, you are frustrated.
Yeah.
We are used to it because
Yes.
that's the
Yeah,
traditional experience, but still, you need to wait. They will tell you, okay, we will order these models in these sizes,
Yes.
and you can come back next week,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe next week you are traveling, and So with digital technology, with a virtual try-on, you can also do virtual try-on in the store and solve that problem that the physical store has inherently, which is not being able to have the whole catalog of the brand physically there.
Yeah.
That's for most of the brands, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Right?
Is it Cartier who has like the virtual, not the digital try-on in stores, or which brand is it? I don't remember.
Cartier enabled they I'm not sure if they have rolled out, but they announced a few years ago this experience with this technology, which was quite good for US market.
Only. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
you can try on the
But
bracelets.
I'm not sure if has been finally enabled
I see.
or not.
Oh,
but
okay.
they announced it, and it was in the press, and
Yeah.
it was very cool.
Yeah,
very
that's
cool.
what I was quite surprised. I was like, wow, that's for a heritage brand.
Exactly.
To bridge actually heritage with innovation and customer experience as well in stores.
Yes.
That was really amazing.
But I think that's a good example of knowing your customers, of
Yes.
knowing what your problems are, and use technology to solve problems. It's not a gimmicky usage of technology.
Exactly.
It's a purposeful usage of technology.
Yeah, purposeful, meaningful, and that's also something that you mentioned with your students, right? Who are Gen Zs,
Yes.
and they say they want something meaningful, which is, although I mean, one would expect that they are just on social media all the time and they're just watching videos, but no, they actually want something meaningful, something that actually talks to them, right?
Yeah.
And I think if luxury brands or brands in general just use digital tools to just be digital or techy, this doesn't resonate with anyone. Not even the younger generation. The older generation, okay, this I kind of understand, but if the younger generation just doesn't like the gimmicky, the techy,
Exactly.
situation, then that doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I think another usage very interesting is and very human, and this is not generational, is human at large, is learning about the brand. When you discover a new brand, in general, not everyone, but there's a sizable amount of clients that want to learn more about this product, about the brand, what it means, about, and then there is also the angle of cross collaborations, right? When two brands do a joint project,
which is quite popular, right? The collabs,
yes. So
sometimes useful, sometimes not so much.
They try to bring in the two audiences in one product, and it's interesting to understand what was the angle.
Yeah.
So digital technologies, in order to provide exclusive information about the products, about the brand, the history of the brand, exclusive content, that's incredible.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I agree. And when was the moment when you realized that digital wasn't just like a side project for luxury, but actually the next evolution? Because you've been in the digital space for such a long time.
Yeah.
When was the moment, like when you said, okay, this is it?
I think in the past couple of years. And what I believe is that there is a parallelism, for example, with the car industry and with other industries. We are seeing that car manufacturers have moved from car manufacturers to technology manufacturers. There's a huge amount of technology in cars. But that technology serves a purpose of integrating with the vehicle and enhancing the driving experience and increasing the security and so on. So I think in general brands are going to become more technology companies.
Yeah.
Because the technology needs to be embedded in the product. there are more and
Yeah.
more brands that are embedding technology in the product with digital product passports and
Yes.
the QR codes or the NFC chips or the biometric identification. You can open a new set of experiences, very exclusive and so on. So I think that brands now it's another one of these inflection points.
Yeah.
They are now in this point of becoming technology companies.
Yeah.
In a way,
Yeah.
not fully, because the craftsmanship on making the physical product is still there.
Yeah.
But they need to embed technology into the product
In their
a seamless
DNA.
way.
Yeah.
In a seamless way.
Yeah.
It needs to be natural, right? For example, I'm not going to mention names, but the other day I was speaking with a friend, and he was showing me a sneaker that has an NFC in the sole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Meaning to tap in with your phone into the sole
Yeah.
that is dirty and so
Yeah.
on, instead of having on top of it like
That
many
doesn't
other
really
brands.
no. Yeah,
So
it's a nice idea. It's like fancy, but then I mean, no one wants to tap a dirty sole.
That is an example. I'm not going to mention the brand,
Yeah.
but that is an example as not very thought through.
Yes. Yeah.
Technology implementation.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Pedro. Thank you for not just talking about the future, but actually building it. It was a real pleasure talking to you. And thank you, visionaries, for taking a front row seat in fashion's digital revolution. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow Rewire Fashion. It's Dr. Karen, and this is Rewire Fashion, and we're just getting started. Until next episode.